My wife mocked me at her corporate party. Her boss slipped me a card and whispered, "Call me if you want a woman who values you." My wife's face when she saw her hand on my shoulder was unforgettable. At her pharmaceutical gala, my wife introduced me to her research team as just my husband, with a dismissive wave. When Dr. Peterson asked about my work, Maeve interrupted, "Jason does logistics stuff. Nothing too exciting. I run a 7-figure supply chain optimization firm," but apparently, that wasn't worth mentioning. The pattern repeated all night. Elaborate praise for her colleagues, apologetic afterthoughts for me. When Dr. Williams mentioned inventory problems at their facility, I started offering solutions. Maeve cut me off mid-sentence. "Jason, could you get me another drink? And make sure it's the right one this time." She turned her back while discussing problems I could have solved in my sleep. I stood there holding her wine, watching colleagues avoid eye contact out of secondhand embarrassment. That's when Dr. Victoria Kane arrived. The newly appointed VP of Operations commanded the room instantly. But unlike everyone else, she didn't dismiss me. "Jason, right? Maeve mentioned you work with pharmaceutical distribution." Victoria's handshake was firm, her interest genuine. "We've been struggling with some serious logistics inefficiencies." For the first time all evening, I spoke about my expertise. Victoria listened like someone who understood the financial implications. Maeve stood there, visibly uncomfortable as her boss asked me detailed questions about cost projections and implementation timelines. "Jason clearly knows his field," Victoria said, glancing at Maeve. "Curious why you've never mentioned his expertise when we discuss logistics challenges." Maeve's face flushed. "I didn't want to seem like I was pushing my husband's business." Victoria's smile sharpened. How thoughtful, how modest. 20 minutes later, I found Victoria on the rooftop terrace. She handed me wine and sat across from me. "I've watched this dynamic for months. Maeve talks about everyone's spouses except you. Mentions Peterson's husband's law practice. Martinez's wife's art gallery. But you?" She changes the subject. The observation hit like a physical blow. Victoria pulled out a business card, her personal number. "My company needs a logistics consultant. 3-year exclusive contract worth more than your current annual income. But personally," she leaned forward, "I find it refreshing to meet a man who's built something substantial without needing to diminish others." Her hand rested on my forearm. "Successful women appreciate successful men, Jason. We don't feel threatened by competence. We're attracted to it." I should have pulled away. I didn't. Before I could respond, I heard Maeve's sharp gasp behind me. She stood frozen at the terrace entrance, watching as Victoria's hand had moved to my shoulder. Then, she detonated. "Get your hands off my husband!" Maeve stormed across the terrace, her voice carrying to dozens of guests. "This is exactly the kind of woman you are. You're preying on married men because you can't find anyone your own age." Phones came out. People started recording. Victoria remained perfectly calm. "I think the security cameras will show exactly what transpired here." Maeve was beyond reason. "Everyone needs to know what kind of predator we're working for." Victoria's response was surgical. "You should take time to cool down before you say something else you'll regret, Dr. Pace. HR will be very interested in reviewing footage of a subordinate making false accusations against a superior." The color drained from Maeve's face as she realized what she'd done in front of witnesses and cameras. Her colleagues were already backing away, distancing themselves from the meltdown. The drive home was 45 minutes of Maeve making desperate damage control calls. By the time we reached our driveway, she'd been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. "Jason, you have to help me," she begged. "Victoria likes you. Maybe you could explain I didn't mean it." After years of minimizing my worth, she was begging me to use my connection with her boss to save her career. I sat there in silence, watching her unravel. Then I said the only thing that mattered. No. I took Victoria's consulting contract. 3 months later, Maeve and I were divorced. Her career never recovered. She was transferred to a small facility in another state after mandatory sensitivity training. 6 months later, my firm had tripled in size. Victoria and I moved in together. We started appearing at industry events as a couple, and I watched people's reactions shift from surprise to respect. Last week, a mutual friend said Maeve wanted to talk. I had nothing to say.